Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Quad, and I'm joined here by my amazing co-host, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist, Ashira Solomon, political moderator and commentator, and over in Canada, our good friend Viviane Bercovici, ex-ambassador of Canada to Israel and the founder and star of the State of Tel Aviv podcast. So, as usual, ladies, we have a lot to discuss. Unfortunately, we're still in the middle of this horrific war that was brutally started against us. And, we spoke in length last week about how the mood in the world has changed and how people are beginning to assign blame. And we also spoke last week about the marchers, the pro-Palestinian marchers. And this week, we wanted to talk about what does the Palestinian cause actually mean? What is it that people are marching for? We have some recent news that Emily, you'll talk about a little bit about the censure of Rashida Tlaib because of the river to the sea. So I wanted to get a little bit into the weeds with what the cause is. How has it been presented? Is Hamas, in fact, representing the real cause? Or are people just deluded in thinking that Hamas is an outlier of the Palestinian political landscape? And so this is what we're going to start talking about today. Then we'll go into some other topics, and at the end, we'll talk about our scumbags and heroes of the week. Of course. So, the Palestinian cause, what do you think it means, and what do you think it's become? Emily?
I think there's a spectrum. There are some people who are educated and really want to see, a two-state solution, for example. But I do think they're the minority. I think there's a big group of people who are super ignorant.
And they were about people here? Are we talking about people abroad?
Abroad.
The world, the activists.
Pro-Palestinian, self-defined pro-Palestinian activists.
Okay.
So there are a few people who genuinely want to find solutions, both here and abroad. And I think that the two large groups within the pro-Palestinian faction are the extremists, the people who genuinely support Hamas, and they think that it's justified or legitimate. We see a lot of that. We talked about it last week. And then there's a huge portion of people who believe them, who believe the lies that those people are telling and think, oh my gosh, it's a travesty. We have to destroy Israel, because they don't really know what's going on. So it's a combination. It's not only one thing. And unfortunately, when it comes to campuses, when you talk about the Palestinian cause, it's not what's better for Palestinians, and it's not a Palestinian state. It's destroying the state of Israel. And that's the whole problem with the chant or chants that they are using in these protests, the from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's speaking about all of Israel being destroyed in its entirety.
Do you think people know that?
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do. I think a big portion do. Definitely not all. But you see these interviews where people have asked, students or protesters on the ground, what do you mean? What does that mean to you? What are you advocating? And they said, Israel should be destroyed.
Yeah.
Because they've been misinformed about what the situation actually is, whose history there actually is here. And that's been a part of the Palestinian narrative from day one, to erase Jewish history.
Exactly. Or turn back history, which history, you can never go backwards. And what I always say is that the problem of this conflict, the reason we have this conflict, is not because a Palestinian state doesn't exist. It's because a Jewish state exists. And that's the bottom line, Ashira.
When I studied here in 2016 at the University of Haifa, and I was taking terrorism and response classes, I also had Palestinian students in my classes. I was under the impression that to be pro-Palestinian meant the two-state solution.
Right, to support a Palestinian state.
From them.
They gave you that impression.
That impression, that they wanted their own state. They also didn't want, certain borders, and they felt that they were discriminated against. That's what I thought it was. Today, to be pro-Palestinian, to wave the flag, to me, means to be anti-Jewish, it means to be anti-Israel, and it means to be anti-peace.
Yeah.
A lot of people have...
And anti-Palestinian.
And anti-Palestinian. A lot of people are coming out and saying, no, there's a middle ground. More people are in the middle. In my opinion, there's not a middle ground. I don't think majority of the international community is in the middle. I think they absolutely know what they're talking about, and they want Jews to be annihilated and Israel to be annihilated.
Protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, thankfully not the government. And on that point, Viviane, you're there on the ground in Toronto with dozens of marches. What do you think the Palestinian cause means to them or to the people that you're speaking to?
Yeah, I don't think most of them know, but some combination of what Emily and Ashira have said. I'm sure you ladies all saw the Green Prince's debut on Twitter.
Yeah, he's great.
When he was fantastic. And when for those who may not be aware, the Green Prince, that's his nickname, is the son of a great Hamas leader, big Hamas leader in the West Bank.
One of the founders.
And he defected. He became an informer for Shin Bet, and he lives in secrecy and hiding, probably somewhere in the States. And he's been very quiet because obviously his life is at risk. But he came out with this video, and I thought he encapsulated it beautifully. He said, when you kind of, he's talking to the people at the protest, when you kind of, idiots, whatever, when you people are out there, like demonstrating, what are you demonstrating for?
Yeah.
What are you demonstrating for? Do you know what Palestine? Are you demonstrating for Arafat's corrupt Palestine?
Yeah.
For Abbas's corrupt Palestine?
Yeah.
For Hamas? And he went on and on with this inventory, and he just called them out for the uninformed fools they are. What they're demonstrating for, I think they're demonstrating for, is, they're fighting against oppression and colonialism and their usual kind of checklist.
Yeah.
In a vacuum, because they have no knowledge. So,
and not
I
knowing
think now,
that everything they're accusing Israel of is what is the reality for Palestinians, a dictatorship and, they're really occupation of these corrupt genocidal regimes.
Absolutely. And corrupt and genocidal and zero tolerance for homosexuality, for Jews, for Christians, medieval treatment of women, medieval treatment of women.
Yeah.
And, and they stand there like these kind of, like useful,
idiots,
puppets, idiots. Thank you. That's the word I was searching for. They're a bunch of useful idiots. So when they're asked anything real, they can't answer the questions. And that's the real problem, is that we are a TikTok civilization now.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, Viviane, when they ask them, well, what river and what sea? Oh, they don't.
Oh, isn't that great?
They could have put us on a map. They could have put New York on a map.
And if they do know, they have no problem saying, I want Israel to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which has been one of the more shocking things for me, to see how many people do know and have no problem with it.
Yeah. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you that to your face. Let's talk for a second about the most vocal supporters of this from the river to the sea chant, who are trying to whitewash it. And that is, of course, the Squad.
The Squad.
So this segment is now out with the Squad and in with the Quad. Viviane,
yes.
We all have a particular favorite Squad member that we want to pick on. It was, we had to fight for some of the more prominent ones. But perhaps you can enlighten us a little bit about the poison being spouted by Ilhan Omar this week.
Such a pleasure. So, look, this week, her main thing was to defend Rashida Tlaib,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I had problems with, other names too. But to defend Rashida. And as we know, Rashida's now been censored by Congress for her constant Israel bashing and extreme bashing. So I'm going to leave Rashida to whoever's dealing with Rashida. But Ilhan, of course, stepped up.
Watch out.
It's good. All right. But, Ilhan, to me, honestly, it's kind of a bit of more of like, okay, so today's Monday. She's a bit of a broken record.
Yes.
She's not, in my view, a terribly compelling orator. But she did, of course, come out in very spirited defense of Rashida, and that you can't shut her up. She's going to keep saying the same things. She's going to keep sharing her views and making them known, which is basically that Israel should be destroyed, which Emily will get into at greater length. From the river to the sea. So, I don't, anyhow. That's Ilhan this week. The same old. I think it's terrible. I find it really hard to get overly worked up, though, because I find her very uninspiring and repetitive.
Absolutely. Not
I wish everyone felt like you.
Yeah. But yeah, not to mention the fact that she's allied herself with the worst dictatorships who are the worst perpetrators of human rights violations, Iran and Turkey and Qatar. These are her friends. These are her backers. These are her funders. And so, yes, a lot to say about her. Let's talk, Emily, about Rashida and what happened this week and why is she upping this at the moment? Did she not realize she was going to be censored? Is she pushing the boundaries? What's happening?
I think she's known for her like provocative acts. Even when she came to Israel, she claims she was banned from Israel or she was expelled from Israel, and actually she wasn't. She was granted a permit for entry.
And
there was no, and she's the one who decided.
Yeah.
So she likes to stage these theatrics much more than she actually likes to represent her district or the people who vote for her. But we saw kind of what Viviane was saying, more of the same from Rashida Tlaib, just more extreme, more explicit. And she had a tweet that actually ended up with the censure.
Right.
Where she claimed that the chant "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" is a cry for freedom and coexistence.
It's aspirational.
Aspirational.
So was Mein Kampf.
Yes, exactly.
We all know where that got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of gaslighting, a lot of dishonesty about that, an intentional twisting of what everyone knows to be true. And I think that's why it resulted in her getting censured, including by 22 Democrats, by the way, for these comments. It's just she continues to push the envelope. She's been explicit in her support for extremists and extremist organizations, and now apparently Hamas. And this is, we're talking about an elected official who's a member of Congress, and she is defending a U.S. designated terrorist organization. She deserves more than just a censure.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, is there ever a point where you'd think that she could get kicked out? I mean, there's a precedent for that? Can you say something so crazy and so being a traitor? I mean, is that the next thing?
I mean, I don't know what the protocol would be for something like that, but I think we're in a very dangerous territory when you have members of Congress speaking this way. And the thing that really bothers me the most about this, I think, isn't even the inflammatory rhetoric, because as Viviane said, it's not new. The biggest problem with Rashida Tlaib is that she is lending legitimacy to other people to hold these extremist views. And for her, she's out for herself. She's not actually advocating for Palestinians. She doesn't care about Palestinian women. She doesn't care that there are civilians being killed. She doesn't condemn Hamas on a regular basis and the atrocities they commit against the Gazan people. She doesn't care about Palestinians. She cares about herself. And the fact that her response, even to this censure, is to say, oh, well, no one will silence me. Nobody's silencing you. Nobody's silencing you. You're on Twitter all day long complaining about Israel and how much you hate the Jewish people. It's clear for everybody to see. And you can continue doing that. And we can continue condemning you and calling you out on your disgusting racism and anti-Semitism, because that's what it is. And that is not pro-Palestinian. She is doing nothing to support Palestinians, because if she cared about Palestinian lives, she would not be calling for a ceasefire. She would be calling for the dismantling completely of Hamas.
Absolutely.
And that was a rant, sorry.
I need like, wow.
It's a great rant.
Fantastic. Ashira, who's your favorite squad member to pick on?
Mrs. Cori Bush. I would also like to note she's a pastor, a woman of the cloth. Cori Bush has said that Israel is committing ethnic cleansing. As we have said on the show many times, that the population in Gaza has doubled. So how can that be ethnic cleansing?
Not to mention the fact that the only ethnic cleansing that's happened in this region is that of the Christians that have gone from 20% of the region to 4%.
And she's not representing her Christian people because she's a pastor in a Christian faith. My biggest problem with her and the squad is the virtue signaling. That they
explain that to an older woman like me.
That they are presenting themselves as the poster children of peace and liberation, and they're so virtuous.
Right.
They're not virtuous. Cori Bush has the largest Jewish constituency in the state of Missouri. Her constituents have written to her, said they're concerned, believe that she's inciting violence, and she responded to them and said she was offended by the letter.
Are they voting for her? Who's voting for her?
And I hope, if the demographic is largely Jewish in the voting, I really hope they vote her out this year. Like I said, these people have a mask on. They do not want peace. If they wanted peace, they would come to Israel. If you want peace, peace looks like something. It's an action. If you want peace, then you must come and you must dialogue. They will not come to Israel on any congressional delegations.
Yes.
They haven't come to the West Bank. They're not coming here to talk because they don't want peace. They want the annihilation of Israel and the Jewish people.
You know, that's a really good point, and it reminds me of what you mentioned, Emily, which is when they were supposed to come on this trip. And in the end, Israel did, and then they said they weren't coming. Or Rashida said she wasn't coming. And I was interviewed on TV about this. I think it was Al Jazeera even. And I said to them, even the itinerary that they had for the trip, there was no bridge building organizations on their itinerary. Oh, wow. There was nothing. There was no coexistence. See what the model for peace could potentially look at. There's nothing.
And to that point,
aspirational about that trip. I called it then, it was a roadshow of hate.
Yeah.
And that's what they were coming to do.
And to that point, we have now a caucus that was created by John Lewis before he passed, the Black-Jewish Relations Caucus. None of them sit on that caucus. And Cori Bush, as a Black woman, should sit on that caucus since she's so concerned about what's happening with the Jewish people and the Palestinians. They're not coming here to say, how can we create peace for these two neighbors? Jews are not going anywhere. Israel is not going anywhere. And Palestinians aren't going anywhere. They're inciting violence with their words.
Absolutely. Bad libels.
One of the things that's, I agree with everything that you said. One of the things that irritates me the last couple, since this war started with Cori Bush, is that, like, even if you look at, I need to calculate in the exact breakdown, but almost all of her tweets are about Israel. And she has nothing to do with it. Like, she doesn't actually have a connection. And it's so problematic to me because she's seeing everything through the lens of American conflicts and of American racism, the history of racism in America. And that is not the same here.
It's not the same.
And it's so dangerous to be Americanizing a foreign conflict that you don't actually understand because people are dying. People are dying as a result of the inflammatory rhetoric and the incitement from people like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, even AOC.
Yeah.
We had someone die at a protest in California.
They killed him.
And take the point
a 67-year-old man.
Of her seeing things through American conflict, like I've said many times on the show, that a lot of Black people are seeing it through the view of American history. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about Arab colonialism. Let's talk about the Arab slave trade in Africa. They never want to talk about this. No. Let's talk about how in Arab countries, as a Black person, you are seen as inferior, and the highest level you can be is a slave. So if you're going to call out Israel for being racist, then call out all the other Arab countries for being racist as well.
You know, I've got stories of a good friend of mine used to bring delegations from South Africa, and the South African members of parliament come here like looking for apartheid. They don't find it. Where do they find it? They go to the Palestinian Authority. They meet with the politicians, and some of them refuse to shake hands with the Black members of parliament.
Yes, they don't.
Meanwhile, the Israeli Jews are like hugging them, and they're like, "Excuse me, this is not what we thought we would find it." They found it. Exactly what you're saying.
People ask me all the time, Ashira, do you experience racism in Israel? First, I'd like to say racism exists everywhere in the world. It's not unique to any people, country, language, culture. But let's not be mistaken. I've never been called a cushy by a Jew, but I have been called that by an Arab Palestinian.
Oh, well, wow. There you have it. Now, I picked the moron of the bunch, AOC, because I really do think that she's probably the least, I wouldn't say the least poisonous, but I think the least sophisticated in the poison that she spews. And even though there are some real libels like the white phosphorus lie that somehow Israel is using chemical warfare, which is completely based on nothing. It's a lie.
It's also not against international law to use, but okay.
But even if it is, or even if it was, we don't use it. We made it clear. There's zero evidence, and the army, has said that this is not something that we use. And she keeps spreading this white phosphorus lie. And of course, the whole thing about war crimes does not beget war crimes. I don't think she used the word beget. I don't even think she'd know what it is. But anyway, I'm using it just to paraphrase. Again, she only says that after she claims Israel has committed war crimes, not even talking about the Hamas war crimes to begin with. So she comes with it retroactively. She didn't condemn in real time what happened. And in general, when you see her interviews, she just doesn't know anything. And again, you say she may have a connection, she may not have a connection, but she has zero knowledge.
We're talking about a woman who said there was four branches of government.
Yes, exactly. I mean, seriously. And so I want to pick on her because she was the easiest. And because, the affinity that I have is that she's a Latin woman or a Spanish-speaking woman, originally from Puerto Rico, and she claims to have some Jewish heritage of Spanish descent, which is my heritage. And so I felt that I had to call her out and say, sister, just watch what you say, because first of all, you have no clue. And secondly, you have no connection and no reason to be talking about it and no reason to be throwing out these blood libels about chemical warfare. Okay, so I think we've spoken enough about the squad, and we are very proudly the quad. And this week, actually, we had a really important guest in our country, a lady who is running against Ilhan Omar in the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota, a lady who was born in Iraq, a Muslim woman. And when she saw the scenes of what was going on here in Israel, she got on a plane. She came here to show her solidarity with the Jewish people. And she contacted me to come and volunteer in Jerusalem for a day. So we packed boxes together in the nerve center of the the civil society social program for the evacuees and for our soldiers. And I was very lucky to have a chat with her this week. And this is what she had to say about the squad, and particularly the lady that she's running against in the 5th Congressional District, Ilhan Omar. Dalia Al-Aqidi, it was my pleasure to meet you last week. You've come here. Let me ask you, why did you come in the middle of a war to Israel?
Fleur, it was wonderful meeting you last week, and I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do what I came here to do. Number one is, after October 7th, on the day of October 7th, I was watching the news and following the news, and I looked at myself and I felt helpless. What can I do to help? So I thought that the best thing to do is to take a flight and come here to feel what you guys are feeling and to tell you that, hey, I came from ground zero of anti-Semitism in the United States, led by the most anti-Semitic lawmaker in history of the United States. And she does not represent the district or the good people of Minnesota.
Dalia, it's so special that you were here and what you're trying to do. How dangerous are the squad and how dangerous is Ilhan Omar? Please tell us, because I'm not quite sure people understand the damage she's doing over there.
She's with her best friend, Rashida Tlaib, who represents a district in the state of Michigan, are just carrying the flag of the terrorists. I hate to play identity politics, but I'm forced to, especially when facing that wave, because Americans, even you're talking about Israelis, I'm telling you, Americans don't understand the difference between a Muslim and Islamist. These women basically support the radical ideology of Muslim Brotherhood or all the
jihadi
the sick ideology and goals of all the jihadi groups. They think that all Muslims think alike, and that's when I get offended and I get appalled by this, because I am a moderate Muslim. I was born in a Muslim family. I was raised in a Muslim family, in a Muslim culture. I don't look at Israel as my enemy. And I don't want the Jews to go to hell. Of course not. And it's my duty to defend the Jews, to defend the minority that is under so much oppression by other sick ideologies. Because guess what? They want to get rid of you, and they want to get rid of me because I'm not like them, because I stand against them. So I felt that it's my duty to tell the world that, you know what, these are not Muslims. Forget about what they're saying. These are Islamists that we all should be united to fight. The radical Islamist fascism should be dealt with and should be eliminated from the face of this earth.
Dalia, we so much appreciate it. Let me ask you a question. Is there ideology, or is there way of poisoning parts of the party? Is that spreading, or are they becoming increasingly isolated? Do you see that having an influence?
Yes, because the problem with Islamists and the progressives or the far left, they're in bed together. They serve each other. You talked about Ilhan Omar. Let me tell you about Ilhan Omar and how dangerous she is for the United States. You are our ally. We should stand by you. Now, if you look at Ilhan Omar, she stands against any entity that is a U.S. enemy. She stands with Iran. With all the atrocities of Iran, Iran is the mind
the head of
what's
snake.
happening.
The head of the snake.
Absolutely. She stands with everyone that hates the United States. She has no place to be. And I cannot believe that we have an enemy within that is placed in the United States Congress, including Rashida Tlaib.
Who's voting for her? Is her district predominantly Islamist, or do people don't believe that she's as radical as she is?
It is the white guilt that's been pushed by the progressives and by the Marxists in the United States. So the majority, I'm telling you, the Muslim community is small, fairly small to make a difference in elections. They're about almost 70,000 out of 700. It's
out
the
of
white
700,000.
Thousands, exactly.
Well, 10%
It's the
of
white
the
guilt. Absolutely. It's the white guilt, that the narrative that you've seen probably on TV, that the white man is an oppressor. So for the white liberals in this district, they have a checklist, okay? I'm voting for a Muslim. Yeah, that looks good, so I'm not a bigot. I'm voting for a woman. Oh, that's good. I'm voting for an immigrant, so I'm not racist. I'm voting for a colored woman. I'm not racist. So they feel, at the end, they feel good about them. The good thing is, because of her policies inside the district, and she led after the protest of George Floyd, when they, BLM and Antifa and other far left groups, burned down our district, burned down our cities, and she led the efforts to defund the police. Now people, even who voted for her, thinking, wait a minute, this is not about feeling good. This is about my safety. I cannot go around anymore. I cannot
she's
go
had
up.
congresswoman for her district. She hasn't taken care of her own people. She's too busy allying herself with the enemies of the United States. Dalia, I want to wrap up. What message will you be taking back to Minnesota and to the United States?
That what I've seen, I cannot explain. I will convey everything that I've seen to my district and to the American people. Just because they feel good that they want to support the Palestinians from a humanitarian point of view, They don't know that they're supporting a bunch of terrorists, and they don't know that all these victims, the Israeli victims and the Palestinian victims that we're seeing every day on our TVs, they are both victims of radical Islamist groups.
We are so grateful for you. We're so grateful that you were so brave to come here, see for yourself, take back this message.
Thank you so much for having me. And I really hope that my next visit will come together and we'll celebrate.
Amen. Thank you, Dalia.
Thanks.
Our favorite segment, and I think a lot of people's favorite segments, I'm getting a lot of very nice messages about how they love it. Scumbag of the Week. There's so many to choose from in this war. It's really unreal. And some of us, had to drop some very good candidates in order to pick up some other good candidates. Viviane, you've got some particularly enlightening choices. Scumbag of the Week, who is yours?
My scumbag of the week is Paddy Cosgrave, who is a wildly successful 41 or 42-year-old Irish tech entrepreneur. And he was the co-founder of this enormous gathering called Web Summit, huge convention of 70,000 tech geeks, entrepreneurs. It was supposed to be in Lisbon in November. But Paddy Cosgrave, being a good Irishman, was unable to restrain himself. And on the 7th of October, when the horror started, as it was still ongoing, he began tweeting viciously, critically of Israel.
This was even in the hours of the massacre, reminded me.
Correct. And what started happening within a week or two of Cosgrave's bold move was that the giants, the Siemens, the Metas, the Googles, Sequoia Capital, the giants said, you know what? We're not coming. We're not coming to Web Summit.
We're not funding and we're not coming.
Correct. We're not coming. We're not funding because we think your views are appalling and one-sided and not constructive. And then, all the speakers and blah, 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 snowballs. Great. So Paddy's like, oh, come on. And then Ron Harnevo, an Israeli entrepreneur who's a big deal in this world, put out this video, and it's absolutely brilliant. Maybe we can post it on our site so that when people go to watch the show, they can see it. And he just says, like, Paddy, what's your problem? And he takes us through Paddy's hypocrisy and tweets and callousness. And he's just like, you know what, man, you're just totally on the wrong side of history. Yeah. You're fighting the wrong people and you're fighting the wrong fight. And as does the Green Prince video, Ron Harnevo makes very clear how hypocritical and uninformed Paddy Cosgrave is. The result is Paddy Cosgrave resigns.
Yay!
He said, I'm going to resign. Well, I think it's more artifice than fact, but he says, I'm too much of a distraction and I'm, going to hurt business.
It was losing the money. It wasn't the distraction. He didn't fund his conference anymore.
This is such a package. So, and it's a good package. Why? Because it shows us the scumbags. Yeah. It shows how they operate, how they lie, and how they get away with it. But this incident, for me personally, is very uplifting because we're fighting back. We're fighting the word warriors and intellectual warriors are fighting back and saying, you know what? No, we're not going along. We're not going to be complicit. We're not going to isolate Israelis like this. This is it's anti-free speech. It's anti-freedom. It's anti-free thought. It's just not, this is not an environment in which, entrepreneurism and innovation flourishes. We, Jewish people, did not have this voice in the past.
You're right.
We did not have this power. We didn't have the voice, and we weren't able to fight back like this. And I personally, in my day-to-day, dealing with this in Toronto, where I am at the moment, it's emboldening. Just as Ilhan and Rashida embolden the scumbags and legitimize their views, these guys give me, koch. They give me strength. They put wind in my sails.
Okay, that's your scumbag. We've got your hero in with the package. Emily, who's your scumbag?
Well, my scumbag this week, I mean, it's really hard.
Oh.
There's a lot of them.
You had a different one yesterday and you changed this morning.
No, I can't. There's so many.
So many.
I know.
But I'm gonna go with Barack Obama this week.
Yes.
Not just because of the disaster that he created, we're dealing with now with Iran.
Yeah.
Although that is one reason. But also he made a comment about the Israel-Hamas war. And basically stated that, yes, Hamas is bad and what they did is bad, but under occupation, it's reasonable that people are frustrated, and this is the result of many years of occupation. Gaza isn't occupied.
Is he purposefully, he knows we left in 2005, this very smart guy. Is he purposefully misleading, or does he really believe it?
Well, no, I think he's purposefully misleading because it's a part of his ideology. It's a part of his entire worldview about foreign policy, about the Western world. I mean, we've seen, to go back to what I said originally about Iran, we've seen how he empowers dictators.
Right.
And it's very, very dangerous. And we're still dealing with the consequences now. I think he comes from the perspective where the United States and their impact on the global, around the world needs to be reduced. Yeah. The problem with that is that even if the United States is reduced in their role, someone else fills that gap. And it's better that it's the United States than it's Russia or China or Iran.
Well, we saw what happened when they left Syria. Russia came in, and now we have them.
And he doesn't really care about the consequences on the ground of what that means. He wants to emphasize that Israel has a problem with occupation. He's probably referring primarily to the West Bank, and that's not the issue here.
Exactly.
You can talk about that, but not in connection to what happened on October 7th. And I think he knows that, and I think it's intentional because he doesn't want to focus on the evil of Hamas. He wants to focus on the whole situation.
Yes.
And I think it's incredibly misguided, and it's also dangerous. It's disappointing to see moral equivocation that way because, frankly, there is none. Even if you're anti-Israel, even if you oppose Israel's policies, even if you oppose the occupation, there are people who are far left who were protesting in the streets every single week in Israel, and they still don't agree with Obama's statement. They are still able to recognize how wrong that is to morally equivocate. It's not a partisan thing.
And even Hillary Clinton, I thought, so well this week. And she said, what are you talking about, a ceasefire? How can you ask Israel for a ceasefire when all that will do is embolden Hamas to rearm, regroup, and keep attacking? And I take my hat off to Hillary Clinton because I think she really set herself apart from Obama, who is your scumbag of the week. Ashira, who's your scumbag of the week?
My scumbag of the week is Ahead Tamimi. Is that right?
Tamimi.
Yeah, all right. Tamimi.
She has similar hair to you. No?
Yep. Hers is blonde.
Yes.
Poster child of peace and liberation. And, when she was 10 years old, the famous picture of her slapping the IDF soldier. She said tweeted out, the Holocaust was a joke compared to what we're going to do to you.
Yeah.
We are going to drink your blood and eat your skulls.
Yes. And what happened to her?
She got arrested.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, at least we know how she really feels.
I really hope that the public sees this and really understands that and I'm going to say it again, they do not want peace. And this is not moral equivalency, like you said. She said she wants to eat the skulls of Jewish people.
And that Hitler was nothing
because they are Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes. She made no bones about it.
And don't forget that she's one of Amnesty International's ambassadors.
Yes. I'm so happy she got arrested, and let's see how long we can keep her in there. My scumbag of the week is Queen Rania of Jordan, who is a woman who was born to a Palestinian family in Kuwait, had a privileged life and childhood, and then married the King of Jordan, and has been on CNN twice in the last week and a half, completely the most unbalanced. Even people who are trying to sound balanced, she wasn't even trying to sound balanced. She, first of all, says Israel has to understand that for their security, they need peace. Oh, my God. Wow.
Please, tell us more.
Oh, my God. We didn't try in 47. We didn't try subsequently. The Oslo Accords never happened. We didn't try.
We didn't withdraw from Gaza.
We didn't make peace with Jordan, her country, the country that she's now the queen. Israel doesn't know, that they need peace, for security. So first of all, talk about stating the obvious and making it sound like it's us who don't want peace and not the Palestinians, who kept rejecting 5-6 times every single peace offer. First that. Secondly, she talks about people should not be punished for their political beliefs. In Jordan, their secret police is known to be particularly cruel. Some people say they're like the Stasi, they're like the Gestapo, in how they lock up their political opponents. This is the country. So on top of lying and stating the obvious and not sounding very clever, she's also throwing stones in her own glass house, because she's from the country that locks people up for their political beliefs, including her brother-in-law last year for talking about the king. Wow. He got put in jail. He was, escaped. He had to hide. His brother was going to put him in jail. So what are you talking about? And the third thing is she does not mention, of course, the hostages, and she talks about a global conscience. The world moral global conscience has to wake up. Where is your global moral conscience for the 240 hostages, including 5-month-old babies? I think you know something. You have a few kids. Where's your global moral conscience? Rania. And the thing is that because she's the queen and she's beautiful and elegant, she's on CNN and nobody challenges her. They didn't call her out, not on one of the stupid lies that she propagated. And that's why she's my scumbag of the week.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
She also said pro-Palestinian doesn't mean anti-Semitism, in that we're weaponizing anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Now,
Yes, I remember. Who is she to define what anti-Semitism is?
and who are these people? Ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still not on your woke language dictionary. Isn't that gaslighting?
Yeah,
Of course.
Okay. So I got it right.
Isn't that woke?
Gaslighting.
gaslighting.
Gaslighting is still
It's a
woke.
word that I only learned like a month ago from these
Me too.
wonderful. Oh, good. And I'm not doing out the same side of 50. How do
We
you-
add value.
Thank you. Okay, now we finish our wonderful show. Always on a high.
Wait, my heroes.
That's what I'm going.
Oh, okay, good.
We
I was excited.
finish our wonderful show on a positive, and that is Heroes of the Week. And Viviane, we've already heard your hero of the week, which is the guy who came out against Paddy Cosgrove, and it worked for you very well because it was the same story. Ashira, who's your hero of the week?
My hero of the week is Amy Schumer. She came out, I think, 2 days ago and said how many friends she has lost in Hollywood because she stands with Israel.
Wow.
She stands with truth. Really, all of Hollywood who stands with Israel is really my hero, because it's not easy.
But who's not standing with that idiot Penelope Cruz? Who's not
Angelina Jolie.
And Angelina Jolie.
Even her father.
Macklemore spoke at the conference, and Macklemore is a singer. Called Israel, said Israel's committing genocide. He has no idea what he's talking about. Even Drake, who is Jewish, signed on to the letter.
I was going to say,
Hollywood
Drake is-
married
yeah,
was
a Canadian Jew, right?
Yes.
no, Drake is a Toronto boy, grew up in the same neighborhood as me and my kids, went to Jewish day school.
Wow.
And it's
Does he not know?
we in Toronto are furious. Of course he knows.
Yeah, he knows.
But his market is this woke.
And that's what it is. They don't want to lose their market.
So I'm really proud of the people in Hollywood who actually take a stance, because Hollywood is extremely left, extremely liberal, and you're going to lose opportunities for standing with Israel. I've gotten messages on my LinkedIn of people saying, thank you for being a voice. Thank you to the Quad, because they're afraid to speak out because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Thank God that we're sending out that positive message.
Yes.
Emily, who's your hero?
My hero, I was so excited about it.
Yes.
And it's sort of connected to what we started with, Richie Torres.
Oh,
Bless him.
He's amazing.
He has real principles and he's knowledgeable.
Yep. That's right. That's right. From day one in this operation, I mean, he's very fair. He's condemned if and when there are extremist comments from, Israelis, which is very valid.
Yeah.
Of course, there are extremists on both sides, not at the same level, but he's not afraid to say that either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's been very, very a strong Democrat voice against Hamas.
Yeah.
A true, actual pro-Palestinian.
Yeah.
And we aren't seeing that much of that. And I think it took a lot of courage to vote to censure Rashida Tlaib in the Congress as a Democrat. As I said, 22 Democrats did. He was one of them. And I really applaud him for that. I appreciate that because we need that allyship. And when it comes to being pro-Palestinian, we need people to be pro-Palestinian if we're ever going to get out of this one
We
day.
actually care about what that means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. We want to get out of this one day.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, Richie Torres is Emily's hero of the week. My hero of the week is Dior. So
yes.
now I want to go and buy all their perfume and their face products. They've got good face cream. Dior fired Bella Hadid.
Yay.
And better than that, hired Mai Tagal, who is an Israeli model. So talk about turning things around. Talk about being principled, saying enough is enough with your poison. It's probably affecting their sales, or maybe it isn't. Maybe they're really just standing
And it's
on principle.
exciting because most corporations don't do that.
Exactly. And they've done it. And on top of that, to add insult to injury to the Hadids, hired an Israeli in her place.
Yes.
So my hero,
That's brilliant.
That Mai, just to add a little bit more, she was the model who did one of the first shoots in the UAE.
yes,
She's
she
been very
was.
vocal when it comes to
That's
Abraham
right.
Accords. So what a powerful statement
To say
in rejection of
with
hate.
peace.
Yes,
Rejection
exactly.
of hate. Pro-peace. That's a great point, Emily. And, let's go out and buy some Dior products.
Let's do it.
On floor.
All sponsored by the pod.
Yes.
Yeah, sponsored by the pod.
We'll get paid for in a face cream and handbags. All right, ladies. It's been another wonderful episode. I feel like it's also an episode and it's also group therapy in a way.
It is.
So let's keep it going and see you all next week.